All right, good morning, everybody. Happy Wednesday, August 25th. Welcome to our second Intro to Psych live stream. Thank you so much. There's a bunch of you in here with me today, which makes me so happy. Thank you for getting your names in the chat so I know who's here. Somebody let me know, can you hear me and see me? Okay, good morning, good morning. Let me know if I'm coming through loud and clear and you can see me just fine. Perfect. Someone said, I can hear you. Yes. Yep. Okay. Perfect. Thank you so much for letting me know. I hope everyone's doing well, that you all survived your first week of the semester last week and are enjoying the last week of August. It is almost September, and then it's officially like time to decorate for Halloween, right? I mean, we're fully decorated in our house, but it's coming. September is almost here. Football is only like 2 weeks away. I'm so excited and ready for some football. Though it looks like it's going to get hot again this weekend, which is too bad. This cool weather we had for a few days made me very much in the mood for fall. But anyway, I hope you are all doing well and hanging in there. Thank you so much again for being on here with me live early in the morning on a Wednesday. Don't forget, as I said, at some point today, there's a lot of people who are in here for the first time, so don't forget sometime today to put your first and last name in the chat, unless you are subscribed. If you're subscribed to my channel, you don't need to worry about doing that because I do have the ability to download a list of those of you who are subscribed who are here today. So if you have the chance to do that, I'll remind you every week, so just forgive me for that in advance. But take a moment every week to just make sure you still have the little football cake or crown next to your name. And a couple of people have done this morning, but remember, if you would like, you should have one advertisement at the beginning. So there's always going to be one right before I start the stream, and then there should be none after that. Unfortunately, Twitch, it's a great platform, but it does have ads. So the one biggest advantage to using that free subscription is that it eliminates all the ads except that one at the very beginning of our stream. And then again, I can download who's here, which is a huge time saver for me. So I really do appreciate those of you who took the time to do that. Please don't ever pay for this. If you don't have Prime, don't pay for it. I would rather you just follow. It shouldn't cost you anything. But if you do have the ability to go through those steps that I showed you on Canvas, I do appreciate it. So anyway, enough of that. Let's go over to Canvas. And a couple of things today. So we have a plan for today. Let me share that with you. My plan will be to give you some feedback from last week. So I'll go over discussion number 1 and give you a little bit of feedback and some things that I saw from last week's material. And then I will give you some information about this week. So what are we doing this week? What is due? We'll go through the different components together. I will give you the Twitch extra credit question so that you can get those 2 points for joining me live today. And then I will always end with some time for questions. So if you have any questions or comments, please feel free to ask them as we go through. But at the end, I will definitely leave time every week so you have an opportunity to ask me questions should you have any. So that is our plan for today. It should be a little bit shorter than last week where we went through everything together. But if any of you are confused about anything or want me to show you an element of the course again, please feel free to ask. I am more than happy to do that for you. So let's go ahead and talk about last week. And it feels wild to me to think that we're already in week number 2. It's going so quickly in a way. But we are in week number 2 as of right now. So we'll talk about what is due this week. But let's go back to last week really quickly. And I just want to give you a little feedback so that you can kind of understand maybe last week's discussion a little bit better and the grades and so on. So last week was that first chapter on the history and scope of psychology. And you had 2 components that were due. One was optional and one was required. So let's look at discussion 1 just a little bit. For the most part, I was really happy with what I saw on discussion number 1. A lot of you did a beautiful job of talking about what you thought of when you thought of psychology and any stereotypes that you might have. The subfields, it's something we talked a lot about last week. and did a wonderful job of talking about the careers and different subfields. And a lot of you even found ones that weren't in the book and came up with very creative things there. Where people tended to struggle was this last bullet down here. Nurture works on what nature endows. Define nature, define nurture, and describe what you think the quote means using your own words. So what I saw is that the biggest reason that people lost points was for this last bullet. And what I saw a lot of is people kind of defining nurture and nature incorrectly. So these are defined in the textbook, and I talked about them in the lecture video as well. So make sure that you're always watching and completing those things before you do the discussion. But nature, a few of you defined it as like trees in the world around us, right? And that's definitely one definition of nature. But thinking about nature within the context of our class, nature refers to what you are born with naturally, right? What you come equipped with into the world. So we typically use that to talk about biology and genetics. Nurture, on the other hand, and some of you defining this a little bit incorrectly as well, talking about like nurturing someone and caring for someone. Again, definitely a definition of that word. But in our class, in our context and lens, nurture is more your learning experiences, your environment, the things that happen to you in your life. And so, a few people lost points for that, not defining nature and nurture correctly, or not defining them at all. And then maybe not responding to the quote that much as well. So a lot of you did beautifully. So don't feel bad if you didn't get full points. A lot of like 11, 12 out of 13 points on the discussion. The other big thing that I saw is some of you forgot to respond to a peer. So remember that every discussion, you're in charge of responding to my questions and then also one of your classmates. And this is, kind of like if we were in class and people were talking and sharing their opinions, you would be able to hear them. So here you're reading other people's posts as a chance to see what other people are saying and commenting. So remember that when you're ready, you will post, I'll show you on discussion 2 for this week, because this one's closed now, but you're replying not only to me, which is worth up to 13 points, but then replying to one of your peers, which is worth 2 points. And you want to make sure that you're getting those 2 points, right? It doesn't sound like a lot, but it will add up if you aren't doing it every week. So what I did is I went through and I graded every single one of the discussions. I'll typically grade Mondays after the week has ended, unless it's a holiday. But I will grade on Mondays, and you'll get an email Monday night, typically from me giving you some kind of general feedback. And then you'll get your specific score and feedback for your discussion as well. And I did make a video, so just to point out, if you're like, where is my grade? How do I find that feedback? If you look at the announcement that went out on Monday, a couple of days ago for week 2, in that announcement, I shared with you, I made a little video about how to find your graded feedback in Canvas. So I do give you feedback either through the rubric or comments or sometimes both. To try and make sure that you understand what I'm looking for and how to make sure you get your full points. So if you couldn't find that, here's a great little video I made. It's very brief, showing you how to find your grade and your feedback for those items. So definitely check that out if you weren't able to find your score for some reason. Otherwise, as I said, most people did quite well on discussion number 1. A lot of like 12 and 13 points or so, a lot of A's on that. So very nicely done. We will continue. We'll have a discussion every week. So make sure every week that you are responding to my prompt and also to a classmate. The other thing last week was the Twitch extra credit. And most of you did a beautiful job of this, a little overlap with the discussion where you were naming a subfield of psychology. And again, that's worth 2 points. So you can do that every week. I will give you one today as well. And continue to get those extra credit points as we move through the semester. So before I move on to this week and what we are doing now, are there any comments, questions, or thoughts? I typed that really badly on my phone. Comments, questions, or thoughts about last week or anything related to week number 1, materials, the course, anything like that before we move forward? I'll give you just a second to catch up, and if you have any questions or thoughts, put them in the chat. I'll wait just a moment just to give you that opportunity. And of course, if at any point you think of a question or a comment, you're welcome to put it in the chat. All right. Where would I get access to the book? So you should have access to the book at this point. There were materials that were due last week. But if you are joining me late, I know some people are adding the course late. If you go to announcements, the first announcements that went out last week, there's some information right here about the mandatory orientation and textbook. So if you're joining me late and you are wanting to go back and get that, in that first announcement right here, there is a link right here to purchase the ebook. And so you can purchase the book and then register it. And at that point, you should then have access. As a side note, a lot of you bought the book at the bookstore, which is totally logical. But when you buy it through the link that I gave you straight from the publisher, it is only $70 instead of $105. Can't even tell you how mad it makes me that the bookstore marks it up $35. So that would be how you could go and access the ebook to purchase it. Once you've purchased it, I do have a link right here on the homepage where it says ebook site, where you can get to the login and access it. And definitely bookmark it. Like I've bookmarked it up for myself. Once you've logged in and created an account, you should do that. Okay, so if you already purchased it, then the link is right here on the homepage where it says ebook site, and then you can log in and access the book. I found it interesting how nature versus nurture is closely related to biology and anthropology, so it shows how a lot of these subjects are interrelated. I love it, right? There is a lot of overlap between sociology and anthropology and psychology. Definitely a lot of overlap in the things that affect us, right? And we're all such products of nature and nurture. It's such an outdated idea of nature versus nurture. It's almost always a little bit of both. So wonderful, right? And you're welcome. I'm glad that was helpful. All right, so let's go to week number 2. Let's take a look at this week. This week we move on to research methods. So how do we conduct research? How do we know the things that we know in psychology? And I know research methods doesn't sound super exciting, but I tried to give you lots of examples and make it as interesting as possible. So I hope that I have accomplished that. I think it's a really interesting unit, but I might be a little biased. That's okay, right? So this week, make sure you're doing a couple of things. On the ebook site, you're going to read chapter 2. So remember the chapters are linked up here at the top. So read chapter 2, Psychology as a Science. And remember that you can kind of jump around up here if you wanted to jump to different sections, or you can just read the whole thing. And there are pictures, of course, and little boxes and everything throughout. So make sure you're reading the chapter on the ebook page. And if it were me, I would probably read the chapter first and then do the lecture and lecture video so that I have that background information going in. Then what you'll want to do is click on chapter 2 lecture. And remember, each one of these is 5 little pages at the top. So make sure that you are reading all 5. And you can listen to them if you miss the sound of my voice, right? If you would like to hear me reading it to you, that's definitely an option for you. So make sure you read through the summary. There's some stuff beyond the book. I think this documentary on aliens is really interesting for science versus pseudoscience. I hope you take the opportunity and watch that. I made a helpful video about correlation versus causation, which is a very key concept in chapter 2. There's some stuff, images over here as well that I talked about in the lecture. There's some in pop culture stuff. There's a couple of fun books and TV shows that are very much related to the topic of science versus pseudoscience. The key terms and review page will always give you the terms that you need to know from that chapter for the exam. So these are all the terms from chapter 2 that you'll need to know for the exam in a couple of weeks. So if you wanted to get started on these terms early or as we go, you do have access to them right now. And then the last page will always be that application, right? Now that I have read this, how can I use this information to help me in some way? And so this one is about thinking critically, right? Trying to be a critical thinker, which is a huge part of chapter 2. Someone said, I feel you with the research methods. Before I made the switch, I was a math major, mainly thinking about going into stats. So that stuff was right up my alley. Yeah, but statistics are a huge part of research methods, and not as much math as if you were in math, but that background would definitely help you for sure, for sure. So make sure you read and watch everything in here. Again, anytime I give you a video, watch it, right? I'm trying to help you. I would show this to you in class if we were meeting in person. This little alien documentary, really fun, great opportunity for critical thinking. And then this video I think is very helpful as well. The other thing that you have for this week, so you have the typed lecture and then you have a video lecture. And remember, you should be doing all of these. So I was able to post this one on YouTube because it didn't have any like outside videos in it. So make sure that you are watching this video. So what I did here is I have the slides and I'm lecturing on the slides like I would to you in person. So you could take notes on that, or you could just watch it and know that you can watch it again if you need to rewind it or go back. But make sure that you are completing not only reading the ebook, but watching the lecture video and reading the lecture and watching anything I posted for you. The discussion for this week, you get to be a researcher, right? You get to think about if you could research anything, and I mean anything. I'm fine with any topic that you would want to research. Mildly inappropriate probably makes it more interesting, right? Anything that you would want to know, right? If you were interested in studying something, what would you want to know? What would your research question be? It could be, does gender affect GPA? Are cat people or dog people happier, right? Whatever. I looked at my dog, right? Whatever it is that you want to know, that would be completely fine. You're going to give me, what are your questions? What are the things that you would be interested in studying and why? Tell me a little bit more about why you would want to know something. Describe how you would examine your topic or question. What type of research method would you use and how would you set it up? So here's where you're showing off to me that you have read and understood the materials for this week and you can apply it, right? So let's say you really want to have an answer to, does gender affect GPA? How would you go about studying that? What is the appropriate research method or methods in order for you to get those answers? How would you set it up? What are the advantages and disadvantages of that type of research? Are there any disadvantages that you want to talk about or things that would be helpful? Are there any ethical concerns and limitations? You can have them, but how would you address them if you did? So what I want you to do is think about this topic, right? If you could conduct any kind of research, imagine you have unlimited knowledge, unlimited resources and money and funding, anything that you need at your disposal. What would you want to know? How would you do it? What are the advantages and disadvantages? And are there any ethical concerns that you might need to address as part of your research? So that is kind of the one assignment that is due for this week. And again, with these discussions, I'm looking to see that you can apply what you have learned. Think of these as like little mini papers where you're kind of showing off your understanding and knowledge of what we've covered this week. So when you're ready to respond to this, you'll hit reply right here at the bottom, and reply will open up a box for you where you can type your response. And don't forget that, as I mentioned last week, it might not be an awful idea to type this up in like a Word document or some kind of other platform and save your response just in case, right? Maybe it doesn't post or there's a Canvas issue. If you have it saved, that could be really helpful for you if something were to go wrong. So you'll type your response, and then when you're done, you'll hit post reply. Remember that you're also replying to one of your peers. It doesn't look like anyone has done this one yet. I don't see any postings down here. But once somebody has done this, remember that you're also replying to one classmate to get those 2 points of credit. So those are the big things for this week. Again, reading the chapter in the book, watching the lecture video, going through the lecture that I prepared for you, doing discussion number 2, and then of course the Twitch extra credit, which I'll give you in just a moment. Are there any questions about anything for this week, about the different materials that are due this week? I'll give you a little reminder here in the chat while I wait to see if anyone has any questions. The reminder will be our next Twitch live stream. I can't talk and type. Our next Twitch live stream will be on Wednesday, 9/1, right? So our next time that we see each other will be in September, right? So that's coming up. We'll be on Wednesday, 9/1 at 8:30 a.m. And we will plan for every Wednesday at 8:30 unless something changes or comes up, and in which case I will, of course, let you know as soon as I have that information. But we'll plan on every Wednesday morning at 8:30. When we are done today, just like last week, I will download and post a recording of the video. So it takes a couple of hours for that to download and then for me to post it. So be patient with me, but I promise it will be up later today. So last week I posted it right underneath that week 1 live stream recording. And I'll do that again right here when we're done with our session today. So if you weren't able to make this live, or maybe you had to leave or you need to watch it again, that way you can just click on that and watch that. I posted on YouTube, which I think makes it easy for you to watch on your phone or tablet or computer from anywhere. So hopefully that is a little bit helpful, but I will post that right here when we are done in a little bit today. I don't see any questions or anything. Of course, like I said, I'll leave the last 5 to 10 minutes or so for any general questions related to content or the class. But let me give you the Twitch extra credit question for this week. Now, this is a really big concept that we're covering, and I go over it quite a bit in the lecture, and I go over it in the lecture here. I made a video about it. But your Twitch extra credit question for this week, I'll put it here in the chat, is what is meant by the phrase correlation does not equal causation? Explain and give me an example. So what is meant by the phrase correlation does not equal causation? Explain and give an example. So you might want to watch that little video I made. Definitely make sure you've done the reading and watch the lecture video, as I do definitely go over this in there. But once you feel like you have the ability to answer that question and you're ready to go, you'll head over to Canvas and you'll click on Twitch extra credit number 2 right here in week number 2. And it'll bring up this screen. When you're ready to answer, you click on the Start Assignment button up here at the top, this blue button. And it brings up a text box where you can type your response. And when you're ready and done, you will hit Submit and get the little confetti burst. Right? Woo! Right, a little burst of confetti, successfully submitted. If you wanted to add more, or if you got it wrong and you want to attempt it again, you can hit New Attempt and do it one more time. I try and grade these throughout the week. There were a few of you last week who got the question wrong. A few people responded to a question from a different class. So if the question doesn't make sense, make sure you have the right class. So I do a Twitch live stream for my abnormal psych and human sexuality courses. So make sure you're always paying attention to the day and time and the title of the stream so that you're not watching the wrong one. There's a lot of overlap. I teach my classes very similarly, but obviously the content is a little bit different. So if the question feels wrong, make sure you have the right topic and right stream, right class. But you can always submit this early in the week. If it's wrong, I will oftentimes tell you not quite. You can try again before the deadline. So it doesn't hurt to answer this early, but you have all the way until 11:59 p.m. Sunday night. So all of our materials for this week are due by Sunday night at 11:59 p.m. And don't forget, I am a stickler for deadlines. So please make sure you get everything in by that day and time. If you don't, it will be too late. So try and plan ahead, work ahead whenever possible. And of course, you can do this extra credit to help you if you miss one discussion or if maybe you don't do as well as you might have liked on one. I think that is everything. I'm trying to think if there's anything else I want to remind you of for this week, but I think that is it. Are there any questions, thoughts, comments, anything you're confused about or that I can go over for you while you have me here? If you don't have any questions, we are kind of officially done. We're right about 25-30 minutes for our stream, which is perfect. And then I'll hang out for another 5 or 10 minutes for questions. And that should be about what to expect, except maybe on an exam week. On exam weeks, I will go over exams and the study guide a little bit more. So those might be a little bit longer. But on a typical week, this is kind of our normal timing. So if you don't have any questions, you're welcome to go ahead and go. We are pretty much done. If you have questions, I will hang out for a little while. And you can type them in the chat, and I'd be happy to answer them or show you anything on the website that you're confused about. So in case you start logging off, I hope you have a wonderful week. Hang in there. Have a wonderful day, wonderful rest of the week. And thank you for joining me live. I know I can't see you, but I do really appreciate seeing your names in the box. Don't forget to put your first and last name in the chat if you haven't done that, or to subscribe, and then you don't have to worry about that. If you could go ahead and make sure you do one of those two things, that would be perfect. Short, sweet, and to the point, right? Don't want to waste your time. I know you all have busy schedules and busy days. But thank you so much. It was nice to see you all in the chat. Have a wonderful week. I'm going to minimize my video, but I am here if you have any other questions. Please feel free to take advantage and put them in the chat. Thank you as well. Thank you for being on here with me. Thank you. Hope you too, Anthony. That's very kind. Have a wonderful rest of your day as well. remember that I am still here if you have any questions, and if you think of something later, of course, feel free to email me. Thank you, Christian, for letting me know. All right, everyone, I'm going to go ahead and log off, but if you think of something later in the week, of course, feel free to email me. Have a wonderful week, and I'll see you all next Wednesday.